In this Excel file, we have the monthly returns of 4 stocks. We have Apple, Boeing Airlines, Netflix, and Tesla from 1st of January 2015 to 1st of December 2019. So in total, there are 59 data points for each of these stocks. And the returns here have been calculated using the continuously compounded formula. So what we're going to do now is we're going to compute the covariance matrix for each of these stock. So before we start, what we'll do is we'll name all these data range, okay, based on the stock code, so that it will ease the computation of the covariance matrix later. Okay, now I'm going to select the range from A2 to A60. So I'm going to name it Apple. Then for Boeing, I'll do the same thing. From B2 to B60, I'll name it as BA. And then from C2 to C60, this will be Netflix, NFLX. And then from D2 to D60, that will be Tesla, TSLA. Right, so we're done. So later on, when we need to use this range, I'll just type the name directly. So let's say I'm going to compute the covariance matrix here on this area. So I'm going to copy, okay, the stock code. Okay, so I'll just copy and paste the value. And then here, I'm going to copy the values as well. But before that, I'm going to go to pair special. Okay, under pair special, I'll just click on value and then I'll transpose it so that it's transformed into a column. Next, I'm going to for each of these cells here, I'm going to compute the covariance of each of these stocks. Okay, so for example here, this will be the covariance of Apple to Apple. So the covariance of a stock to itself is the variance of the stock. Okay, then here we have the covariance of Boeing with Apple, and so on and so forth. So to do that, we'll use the covariance.s function. This is for a sample. Now, of course, you can type Apple, okay, Apple and Apple directly. It will call up the data range here. Okay, but of course, if you want to type all the names for all these cells, it will eat up a lot of time. So that is why, okay, we can do it in a more efficient way. Okay, so I will just type indirect. Okay, indirect. Okay, then I'll select, let's say, this cell here. Okay, so indirect will pick up the name and then look for whether it's a cell or whether it is a data range. So I'll lock the cell. Okay, so I will lock the row, which is 1. Then next, I'll tap comma, and then the next array here will be the, okay, Apple again. But this time I'll lock the column. Then we close the bracket and we are done. Okay, so we have the covariance for Apple to Apple. So to make sure that we are right, let's do it manually. So this is covariance of the sample size. I'll just have Apple and Apple. Okay, so we have the correct value here. Okay, so let's continue. So I'll just copy and paste the formula to all of these cells. So now we have the covariance, okay, for each of these stock. And we are done with the covariance matrix. Now we'll need the average monthly return for each of these stocks. So I will just do the computation here. So this is monthly return. And then of course, it's just a simple average function. Then we can select average and we can select the data range, or I can just type Apple since I've named the data range earlier. But of course, again, to make things more efficient, okay, instead of doing this, I'll just use the indirect function again. Okay, and then I'll select K2 since the name is there. Then I'll just drag it down and press Ctrl D to copy the formula down. So we have the monthly return for each of this stock. So just to make sure I'm correct, let's type average and then I'll type Apple. Okay, and okay, so we have the same value. So in percentage, that will be 1.57%. Okay, so it's correct. So we're done for the monthly return. So next thing, we need to set the portfolio weights. So I'll just copy over this stock code. Okay, so we will just need to enter some numbers by default. So let's say I'll enter 0.25 or 25% for each of this as a start. Okay, I'll sum it up, so the total of the weightage. Then I'll convert all this to percentage. Okay, then I'll just order here. So this is a total weightage. This is the total amount allocated to each of these stocks, and in total it should add up to 100%. So based on that, we will compute the portfolio return and also the standard deviation, okay, based on a monthly basis, and then we'll analyze it. So we'll calculate the portfolio return. So let's just type return here, and let's say this is for the monthly return. So to get the monthly return, we'll take the weightage multiplied by the monthly return for each of these stock, and then we'll sum it up. You can use the sum product function if you want to, okay, but I will use the matrix multiplication formula here. So this matrix multiplication formula will, of course, you will need to specify two arrays. So I'm going to take the weightage matrix multiplied by the monthly return. But before we do that, we have to transpose the weightage, okay? So this will transform it from a column into a row, and then comma, I'll select the monthly return array, then I'll close the bracket. Now before you don't press enter, you have to, for matrix multiplication, we have to press Control Shift Enter, okay, to get the value. So that's about 1.768%. Now how do we know we are correct? Of course, I can use the sum product function to confirm this. So if I select the sum product function, I'll highlight these two same arrays again and press enter. Okay, you can also get the same value. Okay, the reason why I'm using matrix multiplication function here is because we're going to use it for computing the variance as well. So it's just to be consistent. Right, next we'll compute the variance before we get to the standard deviation. Okay, so to get the variance, we will need to take the weightage, multiply it to the covariance matrix, and then multiply it to the weightage again. So I'll use the matrix multiplication function, mmult. Then I'll transpose the weightage. And then within it, I'm going to do another multiplication, okay, which is between the covariance matrix to the weightage itself. Again, before you press enter, it has to be Control Shift Enter. Okay, so this is the variance for this portfolio. Then to get the standard deviation, we'll just take the square root of the variance. So this is the monthly standard deviation of this portfolio, 6.3252%. Now, if to analyze this return and standard deviation, for returns, we will take the monthly return multiplied by 12. Since we use a continuously compounded formula, we can just directly multiply by 12. Okay, so that's 21.211% based on the current weightage. Then for standard deviation, okay, we have to take it, the monthly standard deviation multiplied by the square root of time, which is 12 months. This is annualized standard deviation of the portfolio. Then we'll create the risk-free rate label, and then this will be 4% based on our assumption. Then I will compute the Sharpe ratio. So the Sharpe ratio is the portfolio return minus the risk-free rate and divide by the standard deviation. So currently it's about 0.79. I'll set to 4 decimal places. So the client's objective is to maximize the Sharpe ratio, given that her risk tolerance is to a maximum of 30%. So we'll use the solver to compute. Okay, we're going to use solver to generate what is the appropriate weightage, or what is the optimal weightage, so that the Sharpe ratio can be maximized. Now we can also try out other objectives later on, but we'll focus on this current objective. To get to the solver, you can click on the data tab, and then under that you'll find solver under the analyzed group. Now in the solver window, you have to specify your objective. For example, here is to maximize the Sharpe ratio. Then you can choose between maximizing, minimizing, or you can set the value to a constant, and then you determine which variables you want to change in order to achieve this objective. And then we can also set the constraints. So by default, the option make unconstrained variables non-negative is checked to be true. In other words, whatever variables you specify here, okay, will be 0 or positive. It will never be negative. If you want to allow short sell, okay, then you have to uncheck this. Okay, so while we are setting this to true, that means we are short selling is not allowed in this context if I'm using the weightage, okay, for this portfolio. So I'll set the objective here, which is to maximize the Sharpe ratio. So I'll click cell M21, okay, and then the objective is to maximize it. Okay, then the variables we're going to change is the weightage, which is from L8 to L11. Okay, and then the constraints, we can add a few. So one of the constraints we can put in is for example, the total weightage, okay, must be equals to 1 or 100%, which is 100%. If you want to add more constraints, you can click the add button. If not, you can just click OK to end. Okay, so if you have anything else to add, for example, the client mentioned that her the maximum risk tolerance, okay, it's up to maximum of 30%, so which is less than or equals to, which means at most. All right, so if you still want to add constraints, for example, you want to set the weightage, okay, to be 0 or positive, you can select greater than or equals to 0. Okay, but as I mentioned before, there is already this option that makes all the variables, okay, 0 or positive. So you actually don't need this. This is redundant, okay? But it's just to illustrate that you can add such a constraint. Right, then the solving method we'll select GRG nonlinear here because it's based on a nonlinear function. Okay, however, there are other methods that you can use like simplex LP or evolutionary. Right, so we're done. So we can just click on solve now to see what the outcome would be. So from 25% per stock, let's see the output. So after running the solver process, we find that the optimal portfolio weight, okay, according to the solver, will be 31.57% in Apple, then 37.89% in Boeing, 26.42% in Netflix, and 4.12% in Tesla. And this will achieve an expected 22.6% return with a standard deviation of 21.613%, which is less than 30%. Okay, and the Sharpe ratio will be at 0.8606. Okay, so of course, this is the optimal result, okay, that we can derive through solver. Now, if you want to keep the solver solution, remember to click on this radio button. Okay, if you still want to change anything, you can just click on this option here, return to solver parameters dialog. Okay, else you can just click OK. Okay, then you're done. Now, what if the client changed her mind? Okay, what happens if now her objective is to maximize the return of the portfolio, okay, while still maintaining the risk tolerance at the maximum of 30%. So it's no longer about maximizing the Sharpe ratio, it's about maximizing returns. So before we do that, I'm just gonna copy the results here, okay, just to keep it for comparison later. Okay, and I'm gonna copy the return, the standard deviation, and all that. Okay, so it's just for our record keeping, so we can compare. Convert this as percentage. Right, so this will be in percentage as well. Right, now I'm going to run a different objective. So now the objective will be to maximize return. Okay, so I'm going to keep this, okay, since the risk tolerance did not change, but now the objective is to maximize return. So I'll just select M15 now, which is the portfolio annualized return. Okay, and then we can just click solve. Right, so we'll get the result now, so I'll just click OK. So the result here will be to allocate 10.24% to Apple, 24.63% to Boeing Airlines, and 65.13% to Netflix, 0 to Tesla. So with this, the return will be 27.535% with a maximum standard deviation of 30%. So of course, on return wise, it'll be higher compared to the earlier solution, but the Sharpe ratio will be lower. So this doesn't maximize the Sharpe ratio anymore. Okay, so however, if the client's objective is to maximize return given her risk tolerance, then this would be the optimal result. Of course, the client can also change her objectives. Let's say her objective is to minimize the volatility of her portfolio. Okay, so let's say she no longer sets 30% as her risk tolerance. Let's say she just wants to minimize the volatility as much as she can, okay, for this portfolio of stocks. So before we do that, let's again just save the result, okay, to this new cell here. Right, so I'm going to use solver again. So under solver this time we are going to minimize the volatility. So I'm going to select M17 this time, but this time I'm going to set it to minimum, and I'm still going to change the weights. We have to remove the constraint on the risk tolerance. We don't need this. Okay, I'll just delete it. Okay, that's it. Okay, so now we just need to minimize the volatility and see how much can it drop to. So let's click solve. All right, and let's click OK, and this is the result. So to, of course, get the minimum volatility, in this case it's 19.332%. We will have to invest 40.66% into Apple, 44.5% into Boeing Airlines, 0.38% into Netflix, and 14.46% into Tesla. Okay, so that will be the result, and the return will be 18.881%, and the Sharpe ratio will be 0.698, which is lower than the other two results earlier. Okay, so if the client's concern is to minimize volatility without any other consideration, then this would be the optimal result. Now let's say the client adds a constraint, okay, on top of this current objective. So apart from minimizing volatility, she sets a return objective of 28% for her portfolio. So a 28% return target and minimizing volatility. Before I run the solver again, I'll just save the results over. Now in solver, all we need to do now is just add the constraint on the return objective. So I'll just click on add, okay, and then I'll select the return, which is in M15, and this has to be equals to 28%, which is 0.28. So let's click OK, then we'll just click solve, and we'll have our result, okay, 28% return, and the minimum volatility will be 31%. So this is the lowest possible risk tolerance she'll have to take in order to achieve that target return. So if the client then states that her risk tolerance is 30% or below, then this would not be achievable for her. Now, of course, apart from all these objectives that she has set, she can also express, okay, a different type of constraints for the portfolio of stocks. For example, she may tell us that she wants to have a minimum of 20% of her portfolio invested in Apple stock. So we have to set the constraint so that it's at least 20% here for Apple. Okay, or maybe she said that she only wants a maximum of let's say 50% for Netflix. Okay, so clients can specify different constraints, and then we can use the solver to incorporate all these in. Okay, so that's how we can use solver for portfolio optimization.